A Direction Forward, Episode 2, Southern California. If I was going to pitch this story to a director, after I would get done with it, they would look at me like I had dropped from outer space. So, Episode 1 was a little bit about, let's call him John, and all the things that he went through, medical problems. And then the nice person that he was, because all I wanted to do was wish his friends, my friends, a Merry Christmas, because we had gotten married during COVID. So I never really got to meet any of his friends. He never really got to meet any of mine. We'd gone through, like I said, several medical procedures with him, one right after the other. Found him cheating on me with not one but several women, went to counseling, came back from counseling, got hit with Ian, over 40 trees fell in the house, 80% destroyed, got that all back together, and all I wanted to do was wish people a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So what does John do? He asked me for a divorce. He says, I don't want you talking to any of my friends. I want a divorce. So you know what I said to John? I said, you know what, John, for the 2 years that we've been married, every birthday, Christmas, holiday, special occasion, you never really got me anything that I wanted. It was always something that you wanted. But guess what? This year, you nailed it. You nailed it. So let's talk about him. He was married to this woman named Monique for almost 30 years, 27 years. And he had, according to John, this very much expensive multi-million dollar business where he had a private jet and he's flying all over the world with his business partner, business manager. I don't know. Her name was Tara, something like that. Began with a T. Anyway, the two of them started an affair. Now, John at the time was living with Monique in New Jersey, and this Tamara was in Southern California, obviously had a huge home, because John, instead of going to a hotel, would stay at their house. And I can imagine that the two of them probably had a little bit of fun, that type of thing. Well, Tara's husband, found out about the affair. So what does he do? He gets in his car and he drives off a cliff and commits suicide. Now, this is true. This is you can look it up in the newspaper. I did. It was published. So it's true. This is not something that I'm making up. This is a truism. So now John couldn't stay at Tamara's house anymore because of the husband committing suicide. And so he ended up going to some fancy 4 or 5-star resort in Southern California. So this is per John, and then of course I verified it with this woman also. So he's sitting at the bar, drinking, having dinner, and this woman walks in. Now, at the time, John was, I would say, in his early 50s, and this woman was maybe 34, 35. She had just had her 4th child. So anyway, she sits down, of course, next to John, and they start talking and drinking and talking and drinking. Lo and behold, she was the sales manager for this luxury resort. And nothing could stop them. They wanted to go into the hot tub. Now, it's probably like 11 o'clock at night. Of course, the hot tub's not open. But somehow this woman had a bathing suit, and of course, John had his. So they decided to meet down by the hot tub, where one of them had to jump a fence to let the other one in. I would assume it was probably her, because I can't imagine him jumping a fence. Anyway, so they're in the hot tub. Now, he didn't tell this woman that he had just came from, an affair with this married woman and the husband committed suicide. No, he decides to tell her that he's married to Monique and she has gotten fat and ugly and he's not attracted to her, but somehow he thinks that, they can make it work or whatever. And this woman, this 35-year-old woman, convinced this man that owns like a multi-million dollar business that makes decisions probably on a daily basis, hundreds of them, if not more, that he should go back to his wife and make it work. So he said he did. Now, he tells me this story, and like I said, I verified it with her. And my one question was, if she's such a great salesperson, why didn't you hire her to work for you? He had no answer for that one. So anyway, I would assume that these two carried on their affair for a while, because he did mention that they would drive up and down the coast and do all sorts of stuff. And like I said, she had just gave birth to her fourth child. And I guess she decided to go back to the husband or whatever. Anyway, they ended it. She moved out of town. She moved into Colorado near Vail. And so John, of course, went back to Monique. Shortly after, he had a major, what they call a widowmaker heart attack. And according to John, he woke up in ICU and Monique standing over him with papers for a divorce, handed him the papers, turned and walked away. I think that was probably during the divorce. Maybe they probably talked, but that was probably the last time that they communicated. And in the meantime, she went and cleared out the bank account and safety deposit box, I guess, of a couple $1 million, whatever. That's, of course, John's version. No one can get a hold of Monique. I don't know where she is. I've tried. So can't verify that with her. So I'm just, again, this is just related to me, not something that I'm doing. This is related to me. So now John, of course, he didn't have Jolene anymore. So he had to find a new rotation. And so he meets up with Debbie. Now, Debbie is tall. She's got white hair and, again, bushy black eyebrows. Oh, yeah. So now they either, I don't know, moved in together or, were, intimate. And according to John, Debbie came from a very abusive marriage. So they're together. And at some point, I guess Debbie said to John that she didn't really want to have sex with him or something, and that he was better off meeting somebody else. And so, of course, he did. But this Debbie, now we're talking over 10 years, has enabled him for these over 10 years and codependent on him. And she's also a counselor for a women's shelter called, I think it's Laura's House, where she counsels women, that are getting out of a marriage or a bad relationship that the person is abusive. Now, if you go on a Laura's House website and you look at signs of abuse and you read them, 95% of what they look for are things that John has done to me. So if John has done this to me, you know that he's done it to other women. So what I'm trying to say is that this Debbie, and she was, of course, the catalyst for John asking me for a divorce on Christmas Day, because John was like, well, Debbie's just a good friend. So I was like, oh, she's such a good friend. Then, I should wish her a Merry Christmas. And so John didn't want me to wish Debbie a Merry Christmas, even though Debbie had contacted his sons and everybody else. But somehow I was not to wish her a Merry Christmas, and he wanted a divorce. So Debbie has been instrumental in every relationship, every marriage that John has had in the last 10 years or more. Let that sink in for a little bit. Now, Jolene, I talked to, because Jolene kept emailing him, texting him, I love you. And he would text her back, I love you too. I'll find a time and, day when, I can talk to you. And he would send her emails like, there isn't a second in the day or night that I don't think of you. Well, if there's a second a day or night that he's thinking of her, then I guess he didn't have any seconds a day or night to think of me, his wife. But yet he would text this woman back late at night and then come into our bed. How would that make you feel when you find that out? Not too good, I can tell you that. No, I was not. So, like I said, I talked to Jolene briefly because my husband took the phone out of my hand and hung up. So I couldn't really ask her a lot of the questions that I really wanted to. I got a couple out of her, and then he got pissed. Next, Debbie, who is still in his life and still is, enabling him. Then there's another one. Any questions, concerns? You want to be on A Direction Forward? Do you have a story of your own? Feel free to contact me at adirectionforward@yahoo.com. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.